All right, so I would think. Do you need water? Do you need anything?
Yeah, I do, actually.
I'll get you your...
Go ahead, what's up?
Okay. Is it fair to say, and if the answer is yes, please expand, like through just terrible circumstances and sad ones at this point in your life and career, it's like a blank canvas for you. There's nothing there.
Yeah, it's funny because we were, you know, with the album having just come out, I was talking to a lot of the friends, family, you know, management and the label and all these people that have been a part of helping me introduce it to the world. Like I'm, you know, it was probably like, I probably worked on it for like about 9 months after Chester passed away. Actually, you know, I think I've got like a effect on my voice right now.
He's on MySpace back here.
No, I was like, there's distortion on the end of that track and it's like still on my voice. Okay, yeah. So, you know, it was a journey and the thing about Post Traumatic is that the album's not called Traumatic, right? It's about the journey after. And it starts in a dark spot and it grows and moves out of that spot. So to me, I wanted to get that, especially the earliest stuff, I wanted to get it out as quickly as I could and let everything else track like in real time in a sense, like as close to how, if I have a feeling or a realization or whatever, I want the fans, and I put it into a song, I want the fans to have that as soon as possible, right? So it was a pretty fast, I mean, you know, less than a year and it's 16 tracks. So for me, that's a lot.
And 8 is kind of crossing a line where you start.
Yeah, crossing a line is number 8.
Yeah.
Number 8 out of 16. So the first half is more like kind of looking backwards at what happened. And then at crossing a line, it kind of turns and starts to broaden out. Yeah.
If you can take emotion out of it, just the work part of it, how did it compare to your past work? Easier or more difficult? And the whole process to get here today and the shows and the zillion interviews you've been doing the past 2 weeks?
My son asked me, I was like, oh, I gotta go, you know, it was like a couple days ago, I gotta go do some more interviews. And he's like, you do a lot of interviews. And I was like, well, yeah. He's like, why? And I kind of feel the same way. I'm, you know, of course I'm joking. And I do love to talk to you guys and you in particular, Stryker.
Thank you, Mike.
He's just so easy on the eyes. But, oh, thank you. Yeah. You're just trying to make me feel better. That's okay. That's okay. But yeah, the thing is that you said work, and when you say, like, to me, generally, like, making an album is not work. There's nothing to it that feels like the actual, like, making the music part that feels like a chore. One thing that does feel like a little more friction is usually like the our you know, when you're dealing with a lot of people, when you're dealing with, you know, in our case 6 guys who we would be figuring out, you know, who likes what and whatever, that's where there's a lot of like compromise, and the work there is to make sure that, you know, for me, I want to make stuff that all of the guys love. And so to me, it's like, oh, I love this thing, but a couple of the guys don't love it. Ugh, like, now I have to like take it apart and do something else with it and fix it. And then eventually I make something that we all love. So that's great. With this project, it was very much just about, it was like a diary. And a diary to like an autobiographical story, and you don't need to, like, I don't want to edit myself. I just want to get the most accurate lyrics and the accurate, like, depiction of how I felt in the moment. So it was very much like, it was a lot more fluid.
Were you hesitant at all to release those emotions to everybody?
I looked at it like if I had written something, there was a couple of things, like people, like there's one song, well, so the second song on the record, Over Again,
yes.
That was a hard time. Like, the song wasn't like hard. Like, we were doing the tribute show for Chester at the Hollywood Bowl, and
it's a 3-hour show. Longest you've ever done, right?
Yeah, it was like by far the longest. And so many other artists that you know, you're kind of juggling schedules and making sure each one is happy. And like, I don't want like, you know, Alanis Morissette or the guys from No Doubt or, you know, all these amazing artists are kind of like come and generously donate their time and do this thing. And I want to make sure they're happy and they're cool, you know? And at the same time, I'm just like, it was my first show back on stage since Chester passed away. I was just like, just gut wrenching. And the morning of, I woke up and I was like, oh my God, the show is like 100 hours from now. Like it feels, it's that night, but it felt like way too much time to kill. And I was like, what am I gonna do with my day so that I don't completely obsess over this and just freak out before I even get to the venue? And I decided to go in the studio and start writing, and I wrote a verse. This is the longest version of this story I've ever told. I wrote the verse and recorded the verse for verse 1 for Over Again, and then the next day after the show, I wrote and recorded the second verse. That was a moment where I realized on this album I have an opportunity to just capture these little moments that hopefully aren't gonna come back again. Like they're gonna be little pieces of the journey.
There's some great guests on the album. There's two in particular I want to mention. One is Chino Moreno from Deftones.
Yeah.
And the other is K-Flay, who is great. All right, so let's get to K-Flay. How long have you known her? How did she end up in your studio? And what do you like about her?
She, I don't remember how we got in touch. It was probably just social media. I mean, that's generally like I usually meet a lot of artists. Like you follow each other, and then all of a sudden you kind of direct message. And some people are like, "Cool, man, thanks," and then you kind of don't talk to them again. And other people like hit you up once in a while. And I think that's kind of how that started. But yeah, she you know, we had actually started writing the song "Make It Up As I Go" at the very end of the One More Light album session. And those sessions were, like, we knew that we were about to start mixing, we had very limited time, and she came, we had this idea, and I said to Brad, like, what if we have K-Flay on this track? And so he loved it, she came in, and the three of us kind of worked on that song, and then it was like, maybe like 25% done. It felt like it was like gonna be good, but it just needed a lot more work. And I told Brad, like, you know, let's just put this back in the, you know, on the back burner. Let's finish up our record, and then the next thing we'll come back and work on this, and maybe put this on the next Linkin Park record. And so it was, you know, go back like from now, back like 6 or 7 months ago, I was just kind of like, I had been writing stuff for this album, and I went back to that song and that demo, and the whole idea of like the song's called Make It Up As I Go. And I realized like I'm on this weird, I tell people like I'm a part of this club that I didn't want to be a part of. And the journey is trying to figure it out. Just like you said earlier, it's a blank canvas, and what do I want to put on it? What's, like, for me, like, what's the most true and the most honest, and maybe in some cases like the most important thing for fans to hear from me. And so that was the thing that kind of came back.
Got it. Chino Moreno, Deftones, is on a track. Is it Lift Off?
Lift Off.
Lift
yeah.
Off, all right.
It's
Machine Gun Kelly.
Yeah.
Yes?
And Chino. And I had done, on that one, I had done the track, and I rapped on that one, and then I played it for Kells, and he rapped on it, and then we didn't have a chorus. And I don't know, Chino just came to mind. I mean, one of the reasons why Chino came to mind, honestly, is because when Deftones bass player Chi passed away, that was obviously like, I really relate to that situation they were in. It was really tough. They did a tribute show. I went and played on one of their songs during that show. So I knew we had this like common, you know, thread. And that was true for most of the people I picked on the record. Like, I wanted to work with people who I knew pretty well, and I knew they related to the things that I had gone through, and that maybe they had gone through something similar, or, you know, just related in that way.
It is such a great record. I've spent so much time with it, and I can't believe that you were able to put into words and say them so well on song with production, and it's like 99.999% all you. So seriously, it's so impressive, Mike. It really is. And we're gonna wrap on this. We're gonna wrap on this. I was thinking about you, as I do all the time, and I was like, wait a minute, did this happen? And like, I think I'm only like 80% sure on some of these things, so let's go through them quickly here. Were you born in Southern California?
I was actually born in Panorama City.
Panorama City,
yeah,
okay.
And I grew up in the Valley.
What high school did you go to then?
I went to Agora High School. I went to Parkman Elementary School, junior high.
Okay.
Junior high, rather. So, yeah, up and down the Valley.
And did you play any instruments in high school? Were you a sports guy and creative guy?
Oh, no, well, no, I was more of I was an artist. Like, when I was little, I used to draw and paint, and I started playing piano when I was really, really little, and I played classical piano for about 11 years until I started getting into hip hop. And I told my teacher, oh, there's these jazz songs and blues songs that my favorite rap songs are sampling. I want to learn to play those. And she's like, I can't, I know how some of those go, but that's a lot. I think what she was probably thinking is that's like very advanced. Like, there's a lot of improvisation, and you have to it's a whole other school of playing. And I was like I don't know how old, maybe 13 or. No, I would have been.
Was it like Diggable Planets
14,
type
15.
stuff?
I was a little bit. It was like Tribe Called Quest and Public Enemy and stuff like that. So they sampled a lot of old blues and rock records, like classic rock records. So I started getting into, she basically told me like, what I think you should do is like, maybe you get a keyboard, maybe you get a sampler, and you can start actually making that. You're totally capable of making that music. And I did. And yeah, so in school, though, you asked about school, like, I actually opted out of a lot of parties because my friends and I would go to my house, like a Friday night, and, I'm up in my bedroom in my parents' house in the corner of the room with like a $125 Yamaha keyboard, like a little sampler, and this crappy little sequencer thing, and a $100 mic recording onto cassette. And then we would get together and usually make joke songs, just something that would make our friends laugh. Like, we'd make fake Snoop Dogg and Dog Pound songs, fake Wu-Tang songs. There's a like, just to give you a sense of our like sense of humor, there's an added member of Wu-Tang called Capadonna, whose real name was he originally went by Cappuccino.
Okay.
So we like came up with coffee names for ourselves. Like, the modern version would be Frappuccino. Like, I would be Frappuccino. And
so is that coffee rules everything around me?
Basically,
okay.
Yes. You should have been in the group.
Yes.
You should have been in the group. You get it immediately. That's kind of thing we would have done. The Dog Pound thing. Like, at the time, the East Coast West Coast beef was happening, and so we decided we were North Coast killers. we were gonna go to war with Canada. That's literally, and we'd make these songs in my parents' room. We would make these songs and fake the voices and all this stuff, and then, take the cassette and drive over to the party where our friends had already been for 3 hours, and they were only gonna be there for a little bit longer. We'd go over there and play them, and they were just wasted. Like, everything was funny to them. So we play them, they get in the car, we play them the song we just made, and they laugh and stuff, and we built this like reputation of being like these guys who made these funny songs.
And, okay, which is awesome. I don't know if I've heard that story before. Okay, and then who was the first member of Linkin Park that you were friends with?
I knew Brad the longest of all the guys. The band was really kind of started with me and my friend Mark. Mark actually, he lived next door to Brad. And I was always at Mark's house. So I kind of knew Brad because he was the neighbor. And Mark and I started making music. And then we brought Brad in because he could play guitar. And Rob was in a band with those guys. And Joe, when I started college, Joe was with me, and Dave went to college at UCLA with Brad. Yeah, and then eventually, we parted ways with Mark, and Mark actually became a music manager. He's a very successful music manager now. Works with like groups like System of a Down and Deftones and Cypress Hill, or did Cypress Hill, Alice in Chains, a bunch of other stuff. And Chester, we found, like, a friend of ours, we were then like looking for somebody, and a friend of ours said, there's this guy, like, he's in Arizona, and his other band didn't really work out, but he's great, and you should meet him.
And he was out there.
He was out there, and
he
he came
here.
Mm-hmm.
And did he have those glasses on when you first
Dude,
saw him?
he was such a nerd. Oh my God. He was the best. It was like, I imagine, like, you just imagine, it's not the kind of nerdy kid who, like, he's not the, like, nerdy kid who, like, aced all his tests and studied real hard. He's the nerdy kid that didn't, which is, like, almost, like, even worse. You feel bad. You're like, dude, he's, like, such a nerd, and he's not doing well in school. And we always joked about that stuff. Like, he always used to joke about that. Yeah.
We're gonna get you out on this. I know it's been a long day and you guys have been great out there. What do you think is the best Linkin Park album based on, in 2017, when you listen, you're like, wow, that was better than I thought. This is up at the top.
It depends on your mood, obviously.
Okay.
I mean, well, for real, I always listen to music by mood. I mean, you know, I'm not like a, hey, I listen to this stuff, you know? I was that way when I was, like, a teenager.
Or maybe the most underappreciated one.
Well, Reanimation is?
Love Reanimation.
There are some big, like, Reanimation was
Huge.
the remix album.
We used to play the Jay-Z.
That came, but Reanimation came before that. Reanimation was our Hybrid Theory remix album.
Right.
And we had, you know, it was like at the time, like a lot of those big, like, new metal bands, like Jonathan Davis was from Korn was on there, and Aaron Lewis from Stain, and the guys from Orgy played. I mean, it was a moment in time. And for me, I don't know. If you ask me today, like, a lot of times I'll go to, like, 1,000 Suns. That's when I'm like, just because I know that album, like, literally we wrote an album and, like, almost like it turned into a completely different album. Like, it wasn't what we were expecting to make, but it just became it's like concept record that's so weird, and a lot of happy accidents. I think that's the thing, is that there was a lot of, like, happy accidents in the studio that became the sounds of the album, and you only find those sounds by experimenting and kind of, like, getting weird, you know?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thanks for answering that one.
Sure.
And I think on that note, I'm going to say it again, no matter what you do from here on out, we can't wait to see it and hear it, the visuals, the audio.
Thank you. And if you don't mind me saying, I would always, you know, especially with a group like this, of, like, you guys are such, you're so, it's like, avid, and so many, like, you guys, people were sleeping outside at Amoeba to see me yesterday, so thank you. And I just want to say real quick that I appreciate how you guys are keeping Chester's legacy, like, alive, and you're making him proud by being good to one another, and, like, being, you know, if somebody else is hurting, you're being a shoulder to lean on, and I just really appreciate that. I think you guys are doing an amazing job, and I see you doing it, so I just wanted to acknowledge that and thank you.
That's a perfect way to end. Post Traumatic is the album. It is out. Mike Shinoda, everybody. Thank you, Mike. Thank you.